Hey, what's up, Blazer fans? Welcome to We Have a Take the What podcast. I'm Tara Bowen Biggs, joined as always by Rose Harding. Hello, Rose.
Hi, Tara. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Am I like tearing you away from your fine or your playoff viewing?
That's okay. Yeah, I mean, yes, but that's okay. I don't feel like I have to watch every game of the playoffs because I don't really have any rooting interests here except for I'm kind of on like the Knicks bandwagon, obviously, but like, if I miss a game or like honestly what I do is sometimes I just monitor Twitter
Mhm.
and like if it looks like there's a game that I need to turn on, I'll turn it on. Or if I don't have anything to do in the evening, then I'll turn it on. But I don't feel like I'm like, oh, I have to tune in every night for every game.
Mhm.
Especially because like the playoffs, like they start early. Like I'm still working when
Yeah.
the first game starts usually. So, how about you?
I've been listening. I think I mentioned this last week, but I've been listening and like getting all the local broadcasts of a lot of games, and I'm just so enjoying the playoffs right now. I'm enjoying the fact that none of it matters to me personally. I don't really care about what happens. The basketball is really good, and I'm loving all these new people stepping up and like who'd think that I'd be like, "Oh my God, the Timberwolves are so fun to watch." Like those are words I never ever thought would cross my lips. And like they're really fun. And Anthony Edwards is so good at basketball. And then like Jalen Brunson going off. And of course our, beloved Josh Hart. And there's just people stepping up everywhere. And like I feel like it's actually happening where like the torch is being passed to the next generation. And I just think it's really fun. And I think that about like for the Blazers, like I'm fine being 3 to 5 years away from having any sort of like playoff pressure. I'm
Yeah.
really enjoying it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was thinking about this season, like a lot of the like big stars are already out. Like some of them didn't make the playoffs at all, and some of the ones that we've seen, season after season in the playoffs, they're already out. Like LeBron's out, Kevin Durant's out, Chris Paul's out, Steph's out, like Jimmy Butler's
Dame
out.
Giannis, Jimmy Butler,
Yeah,
Joel Embiid.
they're all
I
out.
mean, the Clippers. It's us. And I also love all of the immediate post-mortem has nothing to do with us either.
Oh my God, yes. Oh,
I
what a
love
relief.
listening to people decide what's going to happen to the Clippers.
I know. You know what I think is actually one of the weirdest things? I don't know if you like have noticed this at all. I mean, I've noticed this the last couple of seasons and I didn't really think about it too hard until this season. Like every year in the playoffs, everybody talks about where Donovan Mitchell should go. And I'm like, okay, but Donovan Mitchell's still in the
Yeah.
playoffs. His team's still there. They won a series and like they're playing Boston. And I don't think anyone thinks that they're probably going to beat Boston, but they could. I don't know. They didn't win tonight, but they're not at home. Like, I just think it's really weird that like everybody wants to talk about Donovan Mitchell specifically. Like for years, they've been talking about where he should. Like when he was in Utah, they talked about where he should go. He wasn't in like Cleveland that long before they talked about where he should go. And I'm like, why is Donovan Mitchell the guy that we now talk about where he should go in the off season? Did he inherit like the Dame status of being the guy that everybody talks about that they should go somewhere else? Like, because nobody's saying that about LeBron. Nobody, like
Yeah, I don't
Paul
know. I
George and
mean,
Kawhi and whatever. James Harden. James Harden's out. Like, gosh, those guys are all on the same team.
I know. Not wild. Yeah, it's just it's absolutely fascinating the place where the league is right now on the precipice of like just turning over. I mean, LeBron is not going to be there within a few years. Like he's not going to be there. Kevin Durant's not going to be there.
Mm-mm.
Like it's just yeah, no, it's I'm I'm super enjoying it and just being able to watch and see what happens to somebody else. Do you have like you said that you were like on the Knicks bandwagon.
Yeah.
I am as well. I mean, play Josh Hart 48 minutes every single night. Why don't you? I mean, why not?
Make him earn every dollar you're giving him. Oh my God. That poor guy, like, think about how gassed he's going to be in the off season.
And he probably gets so mad when he gets taken out. He's probably so mad
Yeah.
when he's not playing.
Like,
What?
what did I do wrong?
Yeah, or just like, how dare you? I'm
You know,
Josh Hart.
you know
Put me
what's
back
real?
in.
I don't think he's fouled out either. Like, what an amazing run of minutes where he hasn't, where he's playing that many minutes and not fouling out like at all. And he plays like kind of intense basketball. Like
Hmm.
he's flying around, he's getting every rebound, he's rebounding like he's 7 feet tall.
You know what I was thinking the other night? I was thinking that Josh Hart is who Gary Payton wants to or thinks he is, or what other people think Gary Payton, GP3, 2, 3, GP2. You know how Gary Payton 2 would
Yeah.
like dive on the floor and like just go to all this, be like so extra about everything.
Yeah.
I think that he thinks that he's playing like Josh Hart, but like Josh Hart actually does that and he's doing it at an incredibly high level. And like maybe GP2 did it while he was playing with the Warriors. Um but
Okay.
I was just watching Josh Hart dive and remembering watching Gary Payton dive and just being like, yeah, it's like they're the same, like, all out effort and hustle. I just feel like Josh Hart's is like within the context of what the team is doing, and I felt like Gary Payton was just doing it while he was on Portland. And maybe it was a better obviously it was a better fit when he was on the Warriors, and it just didn't translate over here. That doesn't mean that I don't think it would have translated, like, if Josh Hart had been here, like, I think he would have played fittingly for being on the Blazers. But yeah, it
Yeah,
wasn't a good long time. It was a good time.
that's an interesting point, and it's all the more mysterious and why we had them on the same team for a brief moment.
Oh yeah, they used to play hacky sack all the time together, and it used to drive me crazy. Like during warm-ups, when Josh Hart was supposed to be warming up and Gary Payton was still injured, they would play hacky sack with the basketball, and I was like, "What are you doing?"
So I don't think it was exactly hacky sack. I think it was more like soccer.
No,
Like
they
the
were
way
like kicking it up in the air.
Yeah, but like soccer players do that too, and it's not like hacky sack where you do it with like your heel and whatever. Like I think they were doing it like soccer players do
Well, they
it.
were juggling
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
together, which
Yes.
is what hacky sack is, except for you're doing it with a basketball, so you can't like do what you can with hacky sack.
It just makes me wonder why we got them on the same team. I mean, I totally agree with you that they have a similar like appeal, but but I don't know, like is that what we thought Josh Hart was going to be when we got him? Because I feel like whatever he is now, he's an extra version of whatever he was when he was with
Hmm.
us. Like,
No, I just think that Josh Hart is what Gary Payton thought he was,
yeah.
and he was able to actually fulfill that when he was playing with the Warriors because they were in the situation that they were in, but it did not translate over onto the Blazers.
Yeah, that's probably right. There's some truth to that. I think that it's just so interesting because I like is Gary Payton gonna even be in this league next year, the year after? I guess technically he has a multi-year deal because we gave it to him.
Okay, we're not going to talk about Gary Payton. This is not a Gary Payton. I'm sorry I brought
No.
him up.
Let's talk about the Knicks though, because I do want to say one thing about the Knicks. So I don't know if did you see the game yesterday?
I listened.
So I one of the things that became very apparent to me that it didn't really dawn on me until that moment. I was like, oh, the Knicks are the new NBA royalty. They're gonna get the favoritism that we often see with the Lakers. I feel like maybe the Knicks are getting from the referees because there was some absolutely bonkers stuff that happened at the end of that game where I was watching it and I was like, oh my God. And I was like, the Knicks should lose this game and they're gonna win.
Mhm.
And they like, I don't know, like, did you see the very end they called an offensive foul
I was
on
listening to the Knicks broadcast, so they were perfectly happy
okay.
with how things were
Okay, well,
happening.
so on the very
I was
last
listening
so
to Walt Clyde Frazier. He was like, yes.
like they called it like an offensive blocking foul on a potentially game-winning possession, similar to what happened in the women's final four with I don't know if you watched the women's final four, but the women's final four that happened for UConn on a potentially game-winning possession. And usually in the NBA, they don't make those calls, right? They don't want the referees like swallow their whistles, and they're not going to call anything unless somebody is bleeding or severely injured in like one of those like potentially game-winning plays. But they called a blocking foul, and the Knicks got the ball back, and I was like, oh my God. And they also called a kickball. I don't know if they
I saw
talked about
that
this.
one that they admitted that they got that one wrong.
Yeah, they called a kickball. Jalen Brunson turned the ball over. It was clearly a hand on TV that hit the ball, and they called the kickball, and the Knicks got the ball back, even though it was clearly going to be a steal, because the ball came off a hand, and then it was picking up by the defender.
But we're Knicks fans now. You're not
Oh,
complaining
right.
about this, are you?
Well, I'm not. I am complaining about this a little bit, in just that like I don't like it when there is a team that very obviously gets the whistle preference, because I think that that's bad for the game, just in
Mhm.
general. But I realized though that like a lot of, because we're talking about all those superstars that are all gone, and like some of these other like the Lakers and whatever, they're all like the Knicks are like a big name team that's left, that I think the NBA would like to be good.
Well, yeah, they're the only prestige team left. Well, I guess Boston is the other prestige
Boston.
team left in the playoffs right now. Otherwise, like, who do they have?
Right. But so it's like there's like the Celtics, and then there's like the Knicks, and I was like, oh, I mean, I'm very happy the Knicks won. I was like, but maybe they shouldn't have won.
And how's your dad doing?
You know what? He was right. He said, if regardless of what happened between Philadelphia and New York, he's like, I'll be happy either way. And he was.
He's got the right attitude.
But then he started telling me about the Knicks, like I didn't know about the Knicks, which I thought was really funny. He was like, okay, so now, like, now that he knows he's rooting for the Knicks because Philadelphia's out, he's like, the Knicks have been playing really good basketball, And I'm like, yeah, I know. I already told you this. We already talked about this. He's like, you don't understand. It's like really amazing because my whole life, I'm like, yeah, Dad, I lived in the same house with you forever. Like, we
And then did
watched
he
the same
start
games.
explaining Josh Hart to you?
Nobody did talk to me about this Jalen Brunson guy. And I'm like, yeah, I know about this Jalen Brunson guy, Dad. It's okay.
God, he's amazing. He's so amazing. And like what OKC, or I'm sorry, what the Timberwolves did to Denver? Like, what was that? Where did that come from?
Dude, I don't know. I don't know what happened to Denver either.
Do they look like they
Are they
just
hurt?
I listened again, I was listening, so I didn't get to see their body language. And I was listening to the Timberwolves broadcast. But I mean, to not hear Jokic's name constantly and him constantly like scoring and doing like, praiseworthy things even to the opponents, I was just like, is Jokic even playing? It was as maybe I can't believe that they got beat twice in a row. There's just no way that that this is gonna be how they go out. That they just give up.
I don't
They
know
gotta
though.
turn it around.
Jamal Murray's been hurt, like, and he's been nursing an injury like all season. Like
Mhm.
a hamstring injury and like
Mhm.
an ankle injury, and like he's been in and out of the lineup all season long. They've been using him like not quite as much as they, I think, might have in previous seasons. And the other thing that I think that is very different about this Denver team, their bench is not as good.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like their bench is not as like, you just
It's
pray for
very
those
thin.
bench minutes, and like they miss guys like Bruce Brown. Like they don't have an anchor on that bench
Mhm.
anymore. And like there's like a bunch of kids that come off that bench that like, I don't know, like who's, so their bench is like that
Braun
Christian
Brown.
Brown, whose name's spelled like Braun.
Yeah, Christian Brown.
They have, I guess, like Reggie Jackson is their like,
Oh, and DeAndre Jordan?
right. Those are like their like vet
What?
leaders.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe they could use a combo point guard that we might know of one who might be looking for a team to back up Jamal Murray if he's not, you know, ready to be there. I don't know, just a thought, just a thought.
they could. Although I think that isn't there, don't they use KCP as their backup point guard? And Reggie Jackson. Those are their backup point guards,
Well, maybe they'd like to
technically.
upgrade next year for a younger version.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you never know. You never know. Just putting that thought out there into the universe.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, they would definitely need to upgrade something about that bench. It's not very good. And I, I the way the Wolves are playing though, like I honestly
they
don't
just keep
know.
coming.
No, and they have a better they're just a more complete team right now than
Hmm.
Denver is. And Denver looks tired and
Hmm.
I don't know, like I don't know if they have the juice this year.
Well, and I guess the thing that I just keep going to with the Timberwolves is it took them so long to get there. It took them
Yeah.
so long to get there. And like, we got to buckle in. It could be a long ride for us to get there. But to see a team like them come through it and be
Hmm.
so good right now is like, it's just promising, you know? Like
I'm
maybe it
happy.
can happen.
I'm happy for Karl Anthony Towns. And because, like he's been on that team for a long, long time and been through lots of bad iterations.
Hmm.
I'm happy for Karl Anthony Towns. I'm also happy for Mike Conley because Mike Conley is one of those players that I think, I don't know, I just always like him.
Hmm.
He just
Yeah.
always looks happy.
Everywhere he's been.
He's always like a professional. Like he's a
Hmm.
little bit like Malcolm Brogdon in that way that like he just like brings his professional like demeanor and is warm and is good at basketball and locks in and I don't know.
Hmm.
He's been around forever.
Yeah. Yeah, he has. No, it's, and Slow-mo's on that team. I always love him too. Wouldn't it
Why
be
do you
fun
love
if it was,
slow-mo?
I don't know. I just love him because you're just like, how did he do that? He's so slow. It just, I really, I don't know. I just like watching him. I was like, wouldn't it be fun to have a Timberwolves Knicks final? Although it'll, but I wonder, probably Boston will come out of the East. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm not making any predictions. I was just thinking it would be really fun to watch. And in general, I'm just excited about like all these new teams. Really, so many potentially new teams entering the era, their excellent era.
I just want to say like one of the magical things to me about basketball is that like there's a player like Slow-mo, there's a player like Jalen Brunson, and you look at them and you watch them play basketball, and you can't believe that everybody knows that like these are like guys you need to stop, right? When they have
Hmm.
the ball in their hand. And Jalen Brunson, especially, I'm like, okay, where you're like 6 foot nothing, like wingspan +2, maybe. I don't know. Like, and nobody can stop you anyway.
Yeah, and 40 points every night.
Yes, it's like how can like this guy who like does not look like he won the genetic lottery for basketball like some guys do be completely unstoppable even though everybody knows the assignment is you need to stop Jalen
Yeah.
Brunson. You lose if you let Jalen Brunson cook and this guy who is 6 foot nothing is just cooking.
Yeah.
What the heck?
It's fun. I think we needed a break. We needed to like not be, I needed to like not be so stressed out about what was happening and just be able to relax and enjoy. And that's how the playoffs are going for me this year.
Yeah. I'm excited to watch the new stars like emerge and like take their place among like the NBA elite. And so we now will get to look at Anthony Edwards and Shea
Hmm.
Gilgeous-Alexander and be like, those are the guys, and we're gonna see them in the playoffs every year
Hmm.
for a while.
Okay, I have to say they promoted heavily Shay's outfit tonight. They were like, he shows up in all gold. And maybe that was just the lighting, but I'm like, I've watched enough Real Housewives. I know what a gold lame outfit looks like, and what Shay was wearing was just like a certain shade of yellow. That was not gold.
Well, now I have
Um,
to look it up.
it's just like head to toe, this like it's more like goldenrod, I would say. At
So
least
it's
that's
not
what.
like chromatic, you mean?
No, it's not like glittery gold like you would see on like Sheena Shea if singing Good as Gold, or like, all the people at the Met Gala wearing gold. This was just like the cut,
This
like
looks tan to me.
it's goldenrod.
It's
Yes.
not, yeah, you're right. It's
It's
not
not
chromatic.
metallic. It's not
No, yeah,
metallic.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
Is that gold? I would not call this gold. I don't even know if I would call this yellow. It's like tan.
I
Or like
saw,
mustard? Mustard?
yeah, I don't know. I definitely saw a headline saying, Shay, well, these headlines. Shay, shows up in all head to toe gold. And I was like, that's not gold. You don't know what's good as gold.
Yeah.
That's a
Um
Vanderpump Rules reference, by the way.
Oh, I don't know those.
Someday we'll get you all caught up.
I
Okay.
know.
Speaking of caught up, we should get started with the what we were going to talk about today. We still have players that we need to
I
talk about,
know.
even though the season is over, but we don't want to leave people behind. So we have two players we're going to talk about today, and I think that'll round out, but I could be
No,
wrong.
that's not right. We still have to use Scoot.
Oh yeah. That's right. We decided to wait on Scoot because he was so heavily covered, like as soon as he was drafted, all throughout the whole summer,
Yeah.
into the season. We were just like, let's wait on Scoot for a little while.
And we knew we were going to have a chance to do him later because we knew he would be on this team.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, we waited years before we did Damian Lillard. We basically were like, oh, if he's gonna be traded, we better have gone through over Damian Lillard.
Well, let me
Um,
start us off today, okay?
okay, go for
Because
it.
I have someone that I think I'll get through it quickly, it's somebody who honestly we must have missed at a different point in time when we were doing this exercise because uh I want to talk about Moses Brown, who is in his second stint as a Blazer.
Hmm?
Moses Sharif Lamar Brown is his name. He was born on October 13th, 1999. His parents are Malcolm Brown and Wanda Williams. And his dad played basketball, I'll say. His dad was a basketball player. He's a center, but like I remember looking him up and he was like a 6'7" or 6'8" center. Like he was a center, but like a small center. Um, in junior college, and he didn't play. I don't believe he played pro. Um, so Moses Brown was born in New York City. Um, he went to Archbishop Malloy High School in Queens.
Okay.
So that's I think like he wasn't like highly touted exactly like he was like a 6'8" freshman, which is like, there aren't that many 6'8" freshmen, but like as far as like I think because like Archbishop Malloy is like a it's like a well-known basketball school in like a Catholic in like the Catholic there's like I don't know
Hmm.
exactly like a league or something in New York.
Yeah.
Um and they did quite well there. Um but I will say that like in some of those like older basketball, like New York is like an old basketball hub. And so like in some of those older basketball communities, like maybe like being 6'8" as a freshman isn't as impressive as it might be in some other parts of the country where they're like, oh my God, a 6'8" freshman, we got to turn this guy into the next big thing. So anyway, he played as a 6'8" freshman. I think he wasn't varsity his freshman year, but he made varsity his junior year, and he like made the big leap in terms of his like style of play. And in his junior year, he lost, or excuse me, he went to like the Catholic League finals.
Hmm.
Catholic League finals.
The private school finals or something.
Yeah, or whatever it is. I don't have the like the vocabulary to describe what these leagues are because like the way the basketball like high school basketball is organized in Oregon feels very different than what I'm reading about when I look at what New York is doing.
Kind of like the way the
Eh,
courts are organized differently.
Yeah. So anyway, they lost the finals though his junior year, and as a senior, he um played really, really well. And partly it was because he was playing alongside Cole Anthony, who is in the NBA now. It's Greg Anthony's son. Um, Blazers legend Greg Anthony?
Mhm.
Question mark. Um, and anyway, they were like a very legendary basketball duo because he was playing Cole Anthony's a guard and Moses Brown was a center, and they played really great basketball together. And he was the league's MVP that year. Again, the Catholic League's MVP. I don't know exactly the size of these leagues, but he was the MVP that year, and he was in all like did the whole like high school McDonald's All-American and all the little like high school accolades. Um, and I think that like partly about based on like his play in that year, he ended up being recruited and went to UCLA. He was recruited to UCLA and Kentucky and Florida State and a couple of the other like kind of like big to medium sized like basketball schools. Um,
UCLA is like as far away from New York City as you can get.
it's true.
That's
It's
so far
true.
away.
It's
I don't,
true.
it always amazes me when somebody goes all the way to the other side of the country.
I think it's really interesting that like New York used to be this place where they got a lot of basketball players, and like that footprint of New York, like born and raised players, is like shrinking now, and now it's like, I mean, people still recruit out of New York, obviously, but like we haven't even talked about that many players born in New York for
Hmm.
the Blazers. And we've probably talked about more international players on this podcast that have been Blazers than like players from New York. Whereas like if you went back like 30 years ago, that wouldn't have been the case. Um, I feel like the international footprint has gotten a lot bigger, and the New York footprint is smaller.
Hmm.
I don't know about LA. I feel like there's still a ton of players that come out of the LA area, but so I don't really know what to say about that. But anyway, this is just interesting to me because like Moses Brown is one of the first players I've looked up, and I'm like, oh yeah, you have like a meaningful amount of time spent in New York City, and you were recruited out of New York's like
Hmm.
basketball scene. Anyway, went to UCLA. He was, I think, a backup at UCLA. He started as like a backup, and he was like sort of inconsistent as a freshman. Um, some games he was really great, and he had like really dominant performances, and sometimes he just didn't do a whole lot. I honestly, when I can't look at UCLA with very like kind eyes, I'll say, because because I went to the U of O. And so we always like, playing UCLA was always like a big deal. They were like a rival, and
So you're saying this all through gritted teeth.
yeah. I mean, I acknowledge that they're a good basketball school, but also like I don't really like UCLA. Um, anyway, he was kind of spotty his whole freshman season, and despite all of that, he still was like Pac-10 freshman team, or Pac-12. I guess he was Pac-12 then. Pac-12 all freshman team, and I don't know why, but like he went to the draft after that season. It
Hmm.
didn't, when I looked at like his performances, they were really like up and down. Like sometimes he was completely looked like he was a non-factor at all. And sometimes he would have like, like 20 points and 10 rebounds. He had one game where he had like 17 rebounds, and in college that's like a ton. But anyway, he went to the draft that year, which would be 2019. I'm sorry, I have not been anchoring this in time like at all. I'm so sorry. So he went to UCLA in 2018, and then went declared for the 2019 draft.
So that is, I'm trying to think about like why he would do that if he didn't like he was I know he's really tall now, so maybe he was really tall then
He was
and he
seven
just
two.
based oh so he was already 7'2", so just
He was already
based on
seven
just
two.
like the fact that he was so tall, people could potentially be like, well, he might be raw right now, but he's going to be big and maybe athletic. I'm looking at the 2019 draft to see because I was like, maybe that was a
Oh,
down draft year. Maybe they just didn't have that many centers, and so he was like, if I go this year, I'll have more of a chance to get chosen as a center. And that was the Zion draft. That was the Zion John Morant.
oh, that draft.
The
Okay.
first center that was taken was Jackson Hayes.
Whoa.
The next one is a guy whose name I don't even know. He was
Jackson.
taken.
When was Jackson Hayes taken?
Jackson Hayes was 8. And then
Okay.
at 18 was Goga Batazde, who,
He's in Orlando.
okay,
He's the center in Orlando.
is he there's why do I not even recognize that name?
Uh, I don't
Anyway,
know, because we weren't paying attention to Orlando this season.
okay, taken 27 was Mafundo Kabengele.
I
That
don't know who
was
that.
those are the only centers that were taken in the first round.
So maybe he thought that it was a down center year, but I just feel like usually what happens is those guys get like an analysis done, and they find out where they're likely to be taken, and then they decide to withdraw if it's
Hmm.
not very high. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it. He had this freshman season that was really up and down. and he went undrafted in 2019. Like
Mhm.
nobody drafted him. Um, and so I'm just like kind of surprised that he still came out.
Mhm.
Um, so anyway, he played summer league with the Rockets that year. But he didn't even barely play. Like I think he was on the summer league roster, but he only played maybe in one game in the summer league. And if like
Wow.
they're not even playing you in summer league, like I don't know, like that feels like it's a bad sign.
And yet, Neil
And
Olshey.
yes, and yet in September after summer league, Neil Olshey signed Moses Brown to a training camp deal. He played in our preseason, and then we converted him to a two-way. So he was like, we did sign him, like eventually, but like, I just, I can't understand why like you would come out as a freshman
Yeah.
when certainly somebody told you along the way you might not get drafted.
Yeah, maybe just the circumstances, he felt like that was the he needed to start making money. Sometimes that contributes to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, but I remember when he was on the Blazers because he was so skinny and he had those tiny little short shorts.
Yes, that
You
is
couldn't
what
miss
I
him.
remember most about
And
him
those
is he was wearing
long
like
legs.
they looked like hot pants.
Mhm. They were so short. And for
Yes.
years and years and years, every time somebody would show up on the Blazers and be wearing like short shorts, I'd be like, "Oh, somebody's wearing Moses Brown shorts." And then now this year, Moses Brown was back wearing Moses Brown shorts.
That's right. That's right. And then there was a moment actually when I remember I was thinking, I was like, maybe they aren't short shorts. Maybe they just look so short because he's so
Because
tall
his
and
legs are
skinny.
so long. Yeah.
And that's a little bit of it, but also they're a little bit hot
I
pants.
I think they were short. I think he just likes
Short
snug
shorts.
shorts.
Hmm.
And you know what? If that's what you need to wear to play your best, go for it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right.
who was on that Blazer team? I'm gonna look that
So
up
the
really
20
quick.
so here's the thing about the 2019-2020 Blazers. Terry, you're not gonna like it.
Oh my God.
You're not
Oh,
gonna like it.
this is the famous year. This is the Mario Hazonia year and Trevor Ariza and Kim Bazemore. Okay, Scal, a,
Yes.
a Blazer cutie favorite of mine. Oh my God. This
Do
was a
you
team.
do you
Oh,
remember the mental gymnastics we went through to talk ourselves into some of these guys?
oh yeah. Oh, I remember Scal and Anthony Tolliver starting because the Blazers were in such a bad way.
Yeah.
and
It's a lot.
and watching Kent Bazemore play, and he was just all arms. He had the longest arms and legs in the world, and he would just run down the court, and I felt like he was like Inspector Gadget, just unrolling his arms and legs because he was just all arms and legs with his teeny tiny torso. And Wenyan Gabriel was on that team.
Yes. Yes, he was. But here's the thing that's actually kind of wild about this team. There actually were a lot of like 6'10" to 7 footers for a Blazer team. Like, okay, so Nurk was still on this team. He was hurt.
Oh my God, Hassan
Um,
Whiteside was.
Whiteside was on this team. Yes, Whiteside was on this team. Scal was on this team. Zach Collins was on this team. Blessings upon us, like Myers Leonard had moved on at this point, but like Caleb Swanigan started on this team. Wenyan Gabriel was on the team. We had a lot of tall dudes on this team, and like, what did we do? We signed a two-way 7'2" guy.
Oh
I don't know.
man.
This was
What
this was a team.
you are the mental gymnastics that we had to do to convince ourselves that this was a basketball team, that Neil Olshey had just put the final pieces in place around Damian Lillard. Just imagine the audacity of somebody to say that. I remember the right before that, because this was the pandemic. This was the
Yeah.
year that everything was shut down, and I went to Phoenix to watch a game right before the pandemic, and the Blazers just got the stuffing beat out of them. They got so beat, and we were sitting up above like one end of the court, and I remember just watching Trevor Ariza just like yelling at Hassan Whiteside. And it's on Whiteside just having no clue what was going on. And Trevor Ariza was so mad at him. And it was such a miserable game. And we were just like, this needs to end now. Oh man.
Yeah, this was a tough team. This felt like maybe the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
This team
Or
felt like the beginning of the end.
poor Moses Brown.
Right. But here's the thing. So he was a two-way guy this season. He barely was with the Blazers, I will say. Like when you go, so the Moses Brown like resume of the NBA was really hard for me to read a whole lot about it because he bounced around so much. I will give you the quick rundown because it's hard to find anything specific about. So I'll say he spent a lot of time in the G League.
Mm-hmm.
G League stuff is very hard to dig up.
Yeah.
I looked and I looked, and there just wasn't a lot. But let me tell you this: he was a two-way player for Portland. He played 30 games with the Texas Legends that year, and which was because we didn't have a G League team yet, and that's where I guess we sent him for G League experience. He suited up like 9 times for the Blazers, the like total, and then we didn't. Then he came back the following year with the Oklahoma City Thunder on a two-way, and he spent quite a bit of time with the Oklahoma City Blue, I think is what their G League team is called. Then the following year, he was with the Dallas Mavericks. And guess what? The Dallas Mavericks G League team is the Texas Legends. So he went back to the Texas Legends for a while.
So he's the Texas legend.
Yeah. And then in 2022 he was briefly with the Cavs, and then he was with the Clippers. I think he was on a preseason deal, I think, with the Cavs, and then went to the Clippers, and then he went to the Ontario Clippers. And then he went to, I think, just like the straight G League for a while. Um he went to the Westchester Knicks for like in the G League until the Brooklyn Nets picked him up very briefly. And then guess what? Now he's here again.
So they just when somebody needs a tall guy,
Yes.
they're like, bring me Moses Brown.
But let's like think about this for a second because he's been in the league since 2019. It is now 2024. And get this, he's only 24 years old.
He's only 24. That's
Yeah.
nuts.
He turns 25 later in like October.
Oh my
So like
gosh.
he's bounced around so much, but he's still only 24. That's like a totally reasonable age to like still be like developing your game.
It's kind of fascinating. Yeah, I mean, he's
Yeah.
still young. I mean, yeah, that's wow. I'm sorry. I'm still looking at the roster for this team. I'm looking at the contracts
Oh
I'm
my
starting
God.
to take us off of the Moses Brown thing. So on this team, Andrew Nicholson was the eighth highest paid player. He was
We
making
always need to know like how much people made
just
relative to Andrew Nicholson.
just to like level set. Here's Andrew Nicholson was the eighth best player. Andrew Nicholson was making more than Carmelo Anthony Simons, Nasir Little. Anderson Varejao was still being paid by the Blazers.
We had
Fe-
two wave and stretch guys on this team.
no, we had three because we also had Festus Ezeli.
Oh my God, Festus Ezeli.
It was, I think, the last year of the Festus Ezeli wave and stretch.
Can I tell you, every now and then I see an extra, extra large Festus Ezeli jersey in the wild, and it makes me so happy. Because there was a year where we signed him, and Neil O'Shea was like, he's the one. He just won a championship with the Warriors. Like, he's
Yes,
the one. And the man literally never put on a jersey.
the
The only
final
thing
piece.
the only thing he ever did was try to give the players a pep talk in the locker room where CJ McCollum rolled his eyes at him.
Yeah. Do you remember the whole chase to the airport that Jason Quick did? And he was tweeting about running to the airport because Festus Ezeli was supposed to be on his way, and there was somebody with like a plaid shirt, and everybody thought it was Festus Ezeli, but it turned out to be Alan Crabb or something like that. I don't remember, but it was very dramatic. It was like one of those, back when people were like, when Twitter was so young and innocent.
Yeah, and people were still reading
And
Quick.
I was still following Jason Quick. Yeah. But it was he was like, I'm on my way to the airport. I'm, 25 minutes from the airport. Da, da, da. It's like, oh my God. Okay, I'm so sorry. I took us off of the Moses Brown. So Moses has been in the league. He's only 25. That's kind of
No,
amazing.
he's 24. He's 25 in
24. Oh my
October.
God. I do remember that besides the short shorts, I do remember that, like, if I would see him playing for a moment for a team, I'd be like, "Oh, Moses Brown. How's Moses Brown?" And so
Yeah,
here
and
we are.
so the thing is like he's bounced around a lot. He's been like I don't think he's ever found like like a real opportunity for
Mhm.
himself. But again, he's still only 24, so I see why people are still like taking a risk on him because 7'2" doesn't just
Yeah.
grow on trees. Like,
And he's, like, beefed up a lot. Like, he's
yeah.
now just, like, a straight up big dude.
Right. Like I think that so one of the things that actually like I thought he was still skinny until I like was really looking at his like body and I'm like, actually he's like filled out a lot since the last
Mhm.
time he was here. But I think because he has a long, skinny head,
Mm.
it like makes me think he's still skinny. It's kind of like also people like me, like I have like big like cheeks.
Mhm.
Like I always feel like I look bigger than I am because I have like a round face with like round cheeks.
Mhm.
And like Moses Brown has like a long skinny head. And
Yeah.
so he's tall and so I'm like, "Oh, he's just still long and skinny." But when I actually like look at his body, I'm like, "No. You've put on a lot of muscle. You look like you have like a more of an NBA body than when we first saw you in those little sticks coming out of those tiny shorts." Like he's definitely like looks more NBA.
Mhm.
He
I
just hasn't
mean,
really had a chance.
kudos to him for sticking around. I'm sorry, Pau Gasol was also on that team. Just thought I'd mention that.
The 2019-2020 team?
Yes.
No, he wasn't.
Or
Was
they
he
were
really?
paying him. Sorry.
Oh,
They were paying him.
did he ever put on a jersey?
No.
We sold them. I
Of
someone put them on.
course.
Not him, but other people.
Sold somebody bought a Pau Gasol jersey. Can't get the Jabari Walker one, Rip City edition off of the website, but apparently you could go grab a Pau Gasol jersey. Okay, I'm gonna leave that one go.
Well,
Well,
you know what? There's a lot of Festus Ezeli jerseys out there.
impressive that Moses is still around. I have to say,
Yes.
that's a lot of stick to itiveness. You know, he's
Yes.
stuck with it.
And I will say one thing about Moses is like he's never been unemployed along
Mhm,
this whole way. You know what I mean? Like some guys, like especially if they bounce around between like two ways or G League teams, like they find themselves out. He's never found himself out of the league, and I still think he's just waiting for that chance to like have a chance with the team to grow into a role,
mhm,
like Drew Eubanks did with Portland. Like we all thought that maybe Drew wouldn't be in the NBA after that season he signed with Portland, and you know
mhm.
what? Now he has like a totally solid backup role in Phoenix.
R.I.P. Phoenix.
R.I.P. Phoenix.
Yeah, that's true. Well, okay.
So
Anything else you want to say about Moses Brown?
Um, no, I don't think so. I'll say that the one thing I will say is it's a little bit hard to look up stuff about him because one, a lot of his career in the last several years has happened in the G League, and as we both know, it's hard to look up stuff about the G League. And also because there is a baseball player named Moses Brown and there is a writer named Moses Brown, and that really it puts like a damper in my Googling for Moses Brown. You would not think that that name is so popular, but no, it is.
Yeah, I'm
Also, I think
surprised.
yeah, I think there was also hold on, never mind. I'll tell you later if I can find it. That's all I have to say about Moses Brown. And who knows, maybe he'll be here next year. Maybe he'll be because now that we have a proper G League team, it might be like reasonable to keep him around. Who
Mhm.
knows?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for the introduction to Moses Brown. I did another player with a hard name to Google, and that's Robert Williams III. We waited on Robert Williams. We were like, is he gonna be around? What should we do? And we were like, no, we need to do Robert Williams. He only played 6 games with the Blazers this year. Everything's kind of up in the air. He's under contract. Um, so I think it's good that we're gonna get to know him. And guess what? No surprise, I am now Robert Williams III's biggest fan.
I am shocked.
I
No, I'm
know
not.
you are. I love doing these player profiles because sometimes you just find a gem and we could have another gem on our hands. Okay, so I will start with, and I'll try not to go on too long, but you know what happens. Okay,
I know.
so Robert Williams III was born in 1997, October 17th. So he's 26 right now. He is going to be 27. His parents are Robert and Tondra Williams, and he has a sister named Brittany who is 6 years older than him. He is from a teeny tiny little town called Oil City, Louisiana. It's outside of Shreveport, and so I went to the map, as I always do, to find where is Shreveport actually located, because I don't know. It is in the upper northwest corner of Louisiana. It's pretty near the Texas border, south of Arkansas. It's like a long ways away from New Orleans. It's like 400 miles from New Orleans, so it's pretty far away, and it's in a very tiny rural area. I mean, the name of the city where his parents lived is Oil City, and it's, fields and, farm fields and oil fields out there. A tiny little town of about 1,000 people. He attended high school in a town called Vivian, which is a little bit north of Oil City. He was the high school was called North Cato High School. He's another one of these players who was a point guard until he got too tall. Point guard with, so ball handling abilities and, court vision, all the stuff that comes with being a point guard, and then you get too tall and you get made a center. His high school coach was a man named Ron Michael. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce his last name. But the really interesting thing about his high school coach is that before he came to coach at North Cato High School, he was an NBA scout for 24 years. So he'd been all around the world and all around the country for many, many years. This doesn't really figure that much into the story, except that right after he was drafted, this coach was an excellent interview because he could say exactly what Robert's strengths and weaknesses were and what he hoped that he would work on and, what he needed to develop. And so he was a really, really good interview. He was a scout for the Cavs, the Warriors, and the Hawks, and he's actually the guy who scouted Al Horford for the Hawks when they drafted him, which
Whoa.
I just think these things are fun, and it's kind of a cool first full circle moment because, as we'll find out later, he was drafted by the Celtics with Al Horford on the team, and he learned a lot about being in the NBA from Al Horford. He was like
Mhm.
a vet on his team when he was a rookie. So, Robert Williams is one of these fellas that we learn about who is super, super closely tied to his community. Really fiercely proud of where he's from and really, really close with the people around him. This is something that we've come across before, and it just, it's cool to see people who are that closely tied with his community. When he was drafted, there was a fun article in the Boston Globe where they went back and they interviewed his high school teachers, and his high school teachers, in a rural community like that, they were big sports fans and they were all big LSU fans. And some of them took it real personally that LSU didn't recruit Robert very hard until the very, very end. And then they were like, LSU is dead to us. No, they didn't say that, but I got the impression that they were not too pleased. But teachers talking about what a generous person he was and that he is always a leader and he was always a kind kid in class. His, basketball coach tells a story about a time where they were planning a public service, community service event, not because anybody told them to, but because the team decided that they wanted to. And he made himself the leader of the group, and he made sure everybody had a ride and had woken up in the morning on time. This will figure in later. And that he was just like that kind of, a generous person. So at the end of high school, like I said, he wasn't really recruited by LSU. He wasn't really that heavily recruited, but he was the Texas A&M did really like him, and that is where he ended up going. His parents separated when he was 12 and his dad moved to Texas. So he did spend some time like playing AAU in Texas, and he had a little bit of a Texas connection. So he ends up at Texas A&M. His freshman season, he like the year before, like Alex Caruso had been on the team and they'd had a pretty strong team, but then the year that he got there as a freshman, they weren't as strong of a team. They didn't make it to the NCAA tournament. But one interesting thing is that he played in a two big lineup. So there were two really big centers who played together on the team, and that's a position that he's played multiple times over the years. Um, he ended
That's
up,
very interesting for no particular reason.
yeah, I don't know why we would be interested in that. Um, he people thought he was probably likely going to be a first round pick. So this is like the opposite of Moses Brown. People thought he was going to be a first round pick, but he decided to stay for another year. He says that his mom was the one who convinced him that he needed to mature some more. And he was like, okay, mom, because he listened to his mom because he loves his mom. So he ended up staying his second year. He in his 2 seasons, he averaged 11.1 points, 8.7 rebounds, 2.5 blocks, and 1.4 assists per game. He was known, for his ability to block shots and alter shots, defense. It was really a huge strength of him, especially his timing and his really high vertical leap. So when you have a big, tall guy like him who can also leap really high, that's, a great advantage. He was twice the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. The second year he was co-defensive player year. His second year, they made it all the way to the Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament. Fun little fact, had he gone to LSU, had they noticed him, he would have played with W.A.T. He and WAP would have been teammates. And Skylar Mays.
I love that. I mean, I guess they didn't happen, but
No.
you know,
What could have been?
we could have explored that two big lineup.
Yeah. Okay, so draft comes around. He's invited to the green room, not just to the draft, but he's invited to the green room. So people had high expectations of him in the draft. He declined and decided instead he rented out a Buffalo Wild Wings in Shreveport and celebrated with his family. So his family and his whole community, he wanted them to be a part of draft night. And
Oh,
draft night did not go as expected for Robert Williams. He was expected to go lottery,
okay.
and he fell to 27. So
Can
he
I
was
ask you, can I ask a question?
hmm?
Is this where people found out about his health? Did he fall
So
because of his health?
it's a speculation. Why did there's a lot of people were wondering why did he go so low? And yes, it was people said the reasons may have been either health or my favorite, and I'm being sarcastic, motor, which I think motor is an excuse that people throw up when they don't know what else to say. It's like, oh, his health and motor. So they
Right.
didn't think that, he had what it took or that he played hard enough or whatever. He had a medical condition that had been known to everybody since he was in high school. It's a vascular condition in his legs
Right.
it's not like a career threatening ending. It's just something for them to monitor.
Hmm.
And but really I couldn't really find any really good, explanations of why he went solo.
Sometimes you just like you never know, and I've heard other athletes on other podcasts talk about how they get flagged sometimes during like the combine or whatever kind of evaluative process happens when they're prospects, and they like the player doesn't even know it really. Like if a team flags them for some particular reason,
Mhm.
health related reason sometimes that they don't even know why their health was flagged,
Mhm.
and that's always like really surprising to me that that's not a more transparent process. Um, but yeah, like some guys fall like quite a bit because of stuff like that.
Mhm.
And it just remains like a mystery.
Yeah, or just other teams want other people in front of them because once you get to that point, once you get after a certain point, then you start going for fit as opposed to talent. And then if you're just not the fit that they need, and maybe even with centers, it's even a little bit harder because it's
Yeah.
such a unique position.
Yeah, and styles of basketball the different teams play, centers play wildly different roles.
Hmm. Yeah, they okay, so the very very cute video, the local Shreveport news covered the draft party. And so they were there and like it, despite the fact that he was taken much later than anticipated, the shout of joy gets me every single time. I show me all the draft party celebration videos that you can possibly show me because it's one of my favorite things. They interviewed his sister, just like she she said, she played basketball first. He used to come and watch her. She was so proud of him. Didn't think she was going to be affected this much. Tears streaming down her face. Mom just like jumping around happy. His draft outfit was a t-shirt, Robert Williams. The Robert Williams family, everybody was wearing matching t-shirts. It was
Oh, I
super
love
cute.
it.
It was super cute. His tenure at the Celtics didn't get off to a great start. Many people have possibly heard the story. But basically he overslept his first introductory press call. Celtics couldn't find him. They had to say, "We don't know where he is. We'll get back to you when we find him. Call
Hmm.
back later." And then shortly after that, he overslept and missed his flight to go to his team's first summer league practice. So,
I love, by the way, now that this is setting us up for how he got this legendary name.
yeah, and
Because what a weird thing.
it's not what you would expect. So, and this is where I'm gonna be reading from some articles because Robert Williams III's nickname is Time Lord. And it was given to him after these two things happened, and people ran with it, because he's late, you can't be on time. It was, taken as a kind of a hit on him, and it wasn't necessarily seen as a flattering name. It was just like a thing to like put on him, is that you were late and we're never going to let you forget it by your nickname. But if you learn about how he actually got the nickname and where it came from, you'll learn that it actually came from like a place of like love and respect. So I'll tell you that story. And I'm gonna read from some articles. So basically, there's this guy named Ryan Herbert who goes by he was a very popular Twitter personality on what they call themselves. Let me get the name. Weird Celtics Twitter with a capital W, capital C, capital T. So Herbert is a member of Weird Celtics Twitter, and he's like the part of Blazer Twitter that like just loves on the players and just like thinks the whole thing is silly, doesn't take anything too seriously, isn't doing like breakdowns all the time, but it's just like loving on the team, loving the players. And he had always loved, since his Texas A&M days, had loved Robert Williams. And like as early as 2017, this Twitter user had been tweeting about how he thought the Celtics should be taking Robert Williams III. And he was like so excited when the Celtics took him. And then the things happened where he was late, and then the media does what the media does, which is they start saying, "Oh no, did the Celtics make a huge mistake? Is this guy, doesn't care about basketball? Is this, the beginning of the end? Why did they take him?" And it just went on and on from there. So the in an attempt here, now I'm quoting from this article in USA Today, in an attempt to support Williams and get under the skin of those uptight media figures who were saying all this stuff about Robert Williams, Herbert and friends began joking that the rookie hadn't actually been late per se, but was simply operating on a different timeline concurrent to the one that we're in, like some sort of basketball playing Doctor Who Time Lord. So for people who watch Doctor Who, Time Lords are people who travel through and can manipulate space and time. And then the other thing that I heard from Herbert in another interview with him is that there's so many Robert Williamses out there, just like there's a lot of Moses Browns out there. There's like an artist, there's doctors, there's lawyers, there's all these Robert Williams. He's like, they're all just the same Robert Williams. He's just doing all these things at different times, and he has control of time. And, sometimes he's late because he's doing all these other things. So it was like this, they were trying to like take away what the media and other fans were using to try to bring him down and try to like prop him up with that. So yeah, this is another quote from the article. Basically, Time Lord boiled down to my prediction of him drafting him in 2017, and also defending him against uptight people who were earnestly acting like they'd never been late to work a day in their lives. Weird Celtics Twitter is a bizarre place, but we genuinely love the characters and personalities and the people on the team, and we're online so much that we have to do absurd things to show people how stupid it is to say that a mega athlete with a savant-like feel for timing, blocks, and passing is a bust because he missed a flight. So that's how Robert Williams got the name Time Lord. After Robert Williams was made aware of it, he was like, okay, yeah, whatever. And Danny Ainge was like mad about it. He's like, I don't think that's a good nickname. I think we should call him Lob Williams. And that just like fell. That
Oh my God.
did not go over well.
I read that about him, and he actually like talked about how like that was a superior nickname. And I'm like, stick to like, fleecing other GMs, because your nicknaming is not your cup of tea, sir.
Yeah. So anyway, weird Celtics Twitter doesn't call him Time Lord anymore. They call him Robert, because they felt like the name had like gotten out of control. But anyway, Robert Williams is fine with it. I don't know if I'm going to call him Time Lord or not, because it is a great nickname. It's a fantastic nickname.
It's a really good nickname, and it's like not a nickname that anyone else can have, which, we were just talking about like how many other people can have the same nickname. Like it feels so specific to him that like no one else is ever going to be that nickname.
Well, and it's even better when you know that it was a compliment and they meant Time Lord because he was like manipulating time and space.
Well, yeah, and also like, I mean, if you think about like if you watch Doctor Who, if you know anything about Doctor Who, no one is bummed to be a Time Lord. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I guess, well, there's some bittersweet. I won't get into that. There's some bittersweet aspects to being a Time Lord. But like, I just like don't understand that, like, why these like ham-fisted people decided to take this name and make it something that's negative for something that like they didn't clearly engage with the actual concept of where it came from.
Yeah. So if we do call him Time Lord, just call him Time Lord knowing, the spirit in which that name was given to him.
Well, I'll say I want to say this one thing is that so I dabble in Doctor Who. I'm not like a Whovian who like, I know the new season's about to start, but like, a lot of people like are waiting on pins and needles all the time for like the new season of Doctor Who. That's not me, but it was pointed out to me early in my relationship that I have a Whovian relationship, because when the show was brought back
your name is Rose.
Yes, and so that is the companion from like the first companion from the from the reboot or whatever, when they like, because there was a Doctor Who from like the 70s, and then they stopped making him for a while, and then anyway they came back. So Rose was the one of like the original companion for, I think, the 11th Doctor, 11th or 12th Doctor. Anyway, her last name is Tyler, who is my husband. So I have a very Doctor Whovian relationship. We're Rose and Tyler.
Yes.
And also, like, I mean, she was a very beloved she was a very beloved companion, Doctor Who companion. Played by Billie Piper.
That was a fun series. I was really into that. My kids were the right age to be really into it. So if you're going to call him Time Lord, just know that you're calling him in the context that you're calling him Time Lord, and then it's a compliment. He did have another nickname just for fun, and that was Boo Butt. So you got to think you would prefer to be called Time Lord rather than Boo Butt, which was the name that his mom and sister called him.
I'll say this though, I would maybe rather be called Boo Butt than Lob Williams.
Yeah, that's true. If we were ranking them. Yeah.
Yes. Lob is still below Boo Butt, so sorry.
Okay, I'll go fast now. That was like the big thing that I wanted to talk about.
Well, I mean, the origin of nicknames matters quite a bit to us, so I'm really glad you covered it.
Well, actually, we forgot to start with takes, but I'm going to take this opportunity to say that my take is that it doesn't matter where your nickname came from if it was a good nickname. I don't care where it came from. I don't care if you made it up yourself. I don't care where, if it's a good nickname, I don't care. Doesn't matter where your nickname came from if it's a good nickname. That's my take.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
we're not at takes yet, unless you're done.
Well, that's my take. I'm giving my, we did
Okay.
it at the beginning, we did it at the end, we did it at the beginning, and now we're doing it in the middle.
The middle. The middle. Tara's take is that
My take,
nicknames, it doesn't matter where they came from.
yes. Tyler, if you're listening, that's my take, and it's in the middle today.
For
Okay.
any of those wondering, my husband Tyler has big feelings about when we talk about takes on this podcast because we're called We Have a Take and how much they or should or shouldn't be featured. Anyway,
We're
there it
just
is. Take in the middle.
we're just trying stuff. We're throwing spaghetti at the wall. Okay. When he was a rookie, Robert Williams' girlfriend gave birth to a daughter named Ava. She is super cute. Couple of years after that was the pandemic. During the pandemic, he went back to was in Louisiana, wanted to get back to his community, and had a crawfish boil for like 500 people where they came through and got a plate because he just wanted to do something nice for his community. And his cute little daughter was there, and it was so cute. He also has a son named Hendrix, who was born in January 22nd. There's few cute pictures of him with his kids on his timeline. Let's see. Oh, pets.
That's
You may remember this. When he came to the Blazers. Okay, I didn't even go through his whole thing. Let me back up a little bit. Okay, he played in Boston for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons. And the sad thing about him, which people already know, is that he has had a really hard time playing due to injuries because he just keeps getting these freak injuries. The amount of games that he's played in his 5 seasons, he played 32 games, 29 games, 52 games, 61 games, 35 games, and then of course 6 games for the Blazers. So he just is like is just cursed when it comes to injuries. And he's one of those guys that when he's out there and he's good, he's so good. And it's just like, if he could just be well, like you can see why people are interested in having him despite his injury history, because when he gets out there and he's good, he's so good. He's so good defensively. He just like eats up people's shots. He's got amazing timing, both with just like blocking the shot and like jumping to get rebounds and offensive rebounds and catching lobs. He's just a joy to watch. If you watch his highlights, he's so fun to watch. So, we can just keep our fingers crossed that if he stays, he can stay healthy and we can watch him play and just really get to enjoy watching him, because people in Celtics was a good place for him to start because he had really solid people around him. After his really rough start, immediately the team got him like a mentor, like who worked for the team, who immediately was like, okay, we're going to organize your life and we're going to budget out your time. And like when he became a father, like they included like how to make sure that he had enough time to spend with his daughter, because that's what was important to him. And he just really, really learned a lot. So I think he was probably a great vet to have around when he came back around. I'm really glad that he came back to the team because he was probably a really awesome guy for all the rookies that the Blazers have, to be around. He could tell you about his experiences when things didn't go great, and he could just impart like some of his lessons that he had learned. Plus, again, he was under Al Horford, so like that guy's a true professional, and so I'm sure he must have picked up something from him. But so he was, during the wild Damian Lillard trade times, he came to Portland, and when he was interviewed his first day in the practice, somebody asked, like, was it easier being traded with a teammate? Because of course he got traded along with Malcolm Brogdon. And he was like, well, I'm not sure if it's really easier because this is the first time, I've been traded. But yeah, I brought my dog with me. And people were like, oh, You brought your dog? And then if you listen to the interview, they ask him questions like, "Oh, what kind of a dog is he?" And he's like, "What kind of dog is Malcolm? Well, he plays really hard." And then you can just feel all the reporters go, "Oh god, we're not talking about a dog. We're talking about Malcolm Brogdon." That was
Not my
really
literal dog. I didn't bring my literal dog with
yeah. But then he actually did clarify that he does have a dog. He has a Presa Canario that he said would be joining him. So apparently his dog did come out a few weeks later, but it was so funny. You hear Brooke just going, "Oh my God, we're not actually talking about a dog." And they were all just laughing so hard. And hopefully everybody is fine after that. Okay, so that's pets, fashion, style. So I told you what I wore on draft night. It was a t-shirt that said Robert Williams. Uh, but so the day he got traded, like October 2nd, or that was when all the trade was going down. There's a media member in Boston named Chris Forsberg with NBC Sports Boston who loves Robert Williams. Like, I found so many things that he wrote or said about Robert Williams. Like, and all the other media like joke with him about how much he loves Robert Williams. So the morning of October 1st, they're getting ready for media day. And so Chris gets like an early interview with Robert Williams. He's so excited. It's a nice thing about catching up with him and how his summer was and how much he's looking forward to playing in Boston. And they have this nice little chit chat. One of the things that he asked him about was how he spent his summer. And during that summer, he walked in a fashion show that was a fundraiser for Dress for Success, because he's that kind of wonderful guy. He said that his girlfriend said that he was good at dressing from the waist up because he has a really good graphic t-shirt collection, but he needed to work on the waist down. So he decided to be in this fashion show and get more interested in fashion. So he has walked in a fashion show on the runway.
So now we have two players that have walked in fashion shows on the
At least
runway.
two. Yeah.
Who knows? Scoot could have. We haven't
Yeah.
looked. We haven't done Scoot yet, and
I
we know that
mean,
he is a designer sister.
yes. And, the way Jabari is really stepping it up, he could end up walking on the runway someday, which is a reminder for everybody to go. Not that I'm saying you need to vote for Jabari. You can vote for whoever you want, but go vote for the What Awards. They will be linked. Okay. So anyway, but it was just funny because this guy from Boston was so excited, and then was just absolutely crushed when they traded Robert Williams, because I listened to him and talked to him about it after that. Let's see. He's a Nike athlete. He wears Nikes. His pastimes are bowling and swimming. Um, I think that's about all the stuff. I know it's a lot. I'm sorry I go on, but I just thought he was so interesting, and I really wanted to tell people about the responsible use of the nickname Time Lord.
I love it. Also, you know, you got like everything. You hit everything. Basically, we have everything but like his social security number and birth weight.
Including my take.
Yes, including your take. Well, I really hope we get to see him play more this year. I would love to see him do more than 6 games worth of stuff.
Mhm.
But you're right. I that's one of the things that I did know about him before he even came here, is that his health has always been a big question. Because he's never been able to put together even like a whole season.
Mhm.
Um, and that's just really like sad when you see, because when you see him play, you're like, oh my God.
Mhm.
That like the wow factor is not it, there's nothing to question about that. It's like, can he stay healthy enough to do that for a whole season?
Yeah, and you want him to be able to do it so bad, especially when people were out there talking about his motor. It's like he wants to be out there playing. And so I hope, like you, I hope we get to see him.
I am so sick of people talking about things like motor, things that like are like not quantifiable, like, or even like people that really have defined. Like, we're not buying a car here. I don't want to hear about somebody's motor.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but I hope we get to see more of him. And like I told you when we were doing like start bench trade, I was like, I really can imagine him playing in a two big lineup
Hmm.
with next to DeAndre Ayton, which is why I just couldn't, like, I think he's worth the risk to keep around.
I know. I
And
would love.
I loved hearing that he's done that already.
Mhm. Yeah, I know that definitely was like, ooh, and they did it in Boston too.
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
done it on a professional level as well as a collegiate level. I went back to look and see who was in his draft class,
Hmm.
and that was the draft class that DeAndre Ayton was chosen number one. Um,
Oh,
Kevin Knox was also in that, Anthony Simons, Gary Trent Jr. It was the year that Drew Eubanks would have been drafted, but of course he was undrafted.
right.
Um,
2018 draft, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a big draft for the Blazers. They got a few
Zach
players out of
Collins,
that.
right?
No, I think wasn't that the year before?
Um, maybe. I thought, yeah, maybe that's I think that's right. That's the year before. But
Feel like
Ant was our lottery pick
hmm Well,
that
Ant
year.
Ant was like
And Gary Trent Jr.
25.
Gary Trent Jr. Is that right?
Gary Trent Jr. was, since I have it up right here. Oh wait, I have the 2019 draft up because I was looking at that while you were talking about who was it? Oh,
What?
Moses Brown. Sorry, it
Moses
was so
Brown.
long ago. I was really gonna keep it short this time. How do I go to the year before?
I'm
Shoot.
pretty sure that I'm pretty sure that it's Ant was that year and Gary Trent Jr. was that year.
Yeah, they were definitely the year of Robert Williams. I just can't remember if Zach Collins was the same year.
Zach Collins was the year before that.
Yeah,
Because Zach Collins was our lottery pick that year. Because he was like we took him like 10.
yeah.
Um, yeah, that's right. And we
And
took
Caleb
Zach
Swanigan was
and
the
Caleb
other.
Swanigan,
That's
yeah.
right.
May he rest in peace.
Hmm.
Um, yes. Well, yes. So I will say I'm excited to see him play. I think that they made that trade with Boston for a reason. And I believe that he will be here next season. I believe the only reason why we would trade him is if it was something that they absolutely wanted.
Hmm.
Um, but he's like when I see highlights of him play, I'm like, I see why he's worth the risk.
Hmm. And there's there's still time.
Mhm.
There's still time with him and Aiton, and again, to like take it all the way back to hours ago when we started, seeing how long it took the Timberwolves to get to where they are, and they had to like develop this vision and like keep building it and keep building it over so many years. Like the Blazers are in that position right now. They got nothing but time.
Yeah, agree.
And they have the Time Lord. So,
Manipulate time.
yeah.
Um, awesome.
Should we
So
wrap it
Moses
up?
Brown, Robert, we did our bigs. With the last of our bigs. And I think we have just Scoot left, and maybe that's it.
Hmm. Let's remind everybody to vote for the What Awards. When do you think we should close that? So next week is the draft lottery. So that's
Yes.
going to be exciting. I think we should give people a little bit more time. Maybe like,
Yeah.
maybe the 15th, and then we'll announce them like at the end of the month.
Yeah, I think that seems reasonable. Um, so yeah. If I don't, so I'll say we're recording on an off day. We typically record on Sundays. But Sunday was a special day in my family, so we didn't record, and it's a Tuesday. But Tara, if I don't talk to you before next Sunday, I want to wish you a happy Mother's Day.
Oh, thanks. And to you too.
So to our team mom, happy Mother's Day.
Happy
Um,
Mother's Day to you too.
and I know you already shared your take, but I'm gonna share mine. And I came to this watching watching the WNBA preseason. I can't believe that we are in a time and place right now where like there's more interest in I think WNBA than I've seen in every other year, and that not all the preseason games are televised. Televise
You
all the
can't believe
WNBA.
that? You're shocked by this?
I'm a little annoyed and shocked
You
by
should
this
be mad by
because
it, but I don't think you should be shocked.
I am a little annoyed and shocked by it. And they're not like some of these players that they hyped, they didn't even broadcast their first preseason game. Like so like Angel Reese, her first preseason game was not televised, and then someone streamed like the local broadcast of it, and it was like they had like a million people watching this because they
Mhm.
were interested in it, and then they finally were like, oh, I guess we'll put the next one on TV. But my point is it's 2024. You spent a lot of time and a lot of money hyping the WNBA and bringing a lot of attention to it this year. My take is give us all the preseason games. I have WNBA League Pass, and then I go to like one team's like channel and they're like, this preseason game's not be televised. And I'm like, come on.
Mhm.
Like do it right. If you're gonna like spend the money and like get people interested in watching all this stuff, like show it to us. I want to see it. Show it to us. That's my take. I want all them to do like the WNBA preseason proper. Although I will say shout out to the WNBA because they just announced today that all of those teams are getting chartered flights this year and they don't have to fly commercial.
Thank God.
Thank God.
I can't believe they did that for so long. I mean, yeah.
They should have done it during the pandemic, but what do I know?
Right. Yeah. No, I'm so happy. I was so happy when I read about that. That's really great for them.
Yes. Okay, Tara. I think 15th is a good time for us to do keep voting open. Where can people find you?
They can find me on Twitter at TCB Biggs, and they can find the podcast at We Have a Take. I'll be sharing the link repeatedly to the What Awards from both of those accounts. And how about you?
You can find me at Roselle Harding on Twitter, on Instagram, and in the We Have a Take Discord. You can also find me sitting in front of my TV trying to watch WNBA preseason games.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. We really appreciate you, and go Blazers.